Hey guys, it's me, Froggy here, with another Beyond the Map's Edge Clue Talk, another discussion of the stories that are in Justin M. Posey's Beyond the Map's Edge treasure book, treasure hunt, as seen on Netflix. Right, if you have Netflix, you can watch the Golden Greed documentary. Okay, this is a story, long time coming, toward the end of the book. I guess, in a sense, it's a story that brought us all here, that started everything off. It's an interesting placement, I think, right between two Tucker chapters, but we can talk about that later. All right, so the story's called The Curious Confluence. The Curious Confluence, which, for a hunt that Justin says you don't need to have any knowledge of fence hunt to be successful here, the word confluence carries a lot of significance to a lot of fen hunters. So, I don't know, I'm not the best person to talk about it, but it's something interesting for sure. All right, here we go. It starts off with the time frame. We love the time frame because for those of you who, again, are building a timeline of where things happen in the book, when things happen in the book, this is important for you. July 2013 says he's in northern New Mexico, right, on a reconnaissance mission for Forest Fence treasure. So right there, you kind of know that, that's a little bit of how Justin approaches treasure hunting, of how he believes he would be successful for fence hunt, doing reconnaissance hunts, scouting trips, not just making a solve and going direct to it. So I think he set up this one a little bit differently. By the words he says, we don't need to use all of our vacation days doing a bunch of reconnaissance trips. I believe most of the work can be done remotely or what they call armchair. But anyways, let's not get too bogged down from that. All right, the hunt had been my hobby for a year now, so it's interesting to know that he's here July 2013, and he's been doing this for a year now. So we can simple math there. July 2012 is around a year from when he started, right? I think he mentions the exact month he started, not in this chapter, but in a different one. But 2012 is a good time. You can use that in your timeline for when he started the hunt. All right, he's in a rental SUV. Again, not really sure why that's mentioned. I know there's some crazy theories about it, but he pulled into Santa Fe in my rental SUV. He goes on to describing it, right? He says, a vehicle chosen more for its ability to handle rough terrain than for comfort. The back was stuffed with maps and gear, testament to my commitment to the search. So maybe that's all those lines are just showing, just letting you know, hey, I'm a serious hunter. I got an SUV. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So he does, as he says, what any dedicated fence searcher would do. He makes his way to the bookstore right there in Santa Fe. And heads up, this is a little bit of a shorter story, right? So it's not this is not going to be too long of a video. Another I want to call out. He says, so smell. I hesitate to say smell is a recurring theme. I don't know if it's, but smell appears it appears in some interesting chapters with some significance attached to it, right? Starting out, if you have the audiobook, and only the audiobook, right? I was a little bit bummed that after the audiobook came out, I decided to buy an ebook, hoping the new audiobook would be in it, but it's not. But, hey, it happens, right? So I'm not holding Justin to that one, not too upset about it. Anyways, I got distracted here. So let's go over quickly the stories where smell plays into a big part, right? We have the camarones calientes, the shrimp, right, that go a little bit bad, cause Justin a very visceral reaction. Then we have the famous gift shop experience where he projectile, or I don't want to put words, I don't think he said projectile, but he vomits, right, because of the smell of the artificial pine and combined with like all the other scents. Then we have this one right here, the scent of paper and ink, and the scent of pine is a reoccurring theme throughout the book. If you haven't dug into the whole pine thing, I think it'd do you some value. I think it's pretty interesting. I haven't brought it up until now because I use it pretty strongly, if that's the right word, for my solve, for my ending spot. So I don't want to give it too much away, but I'm like 5 days away. Let's see, today's Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so like 5 days away from going boots on the ground. So I'll let that slip out there. Pine, right? Anyways, it's very interesting the way scent plays a role in his stories. I don't really know if I've ever walked into a bookstore and smelled paper and ink. I mean, I've smelled book. I don't know if I've smelled ink. I don't know if I know what ink smells like, if ink even has a smell. So again, this could just be an example of flowery writing, but because it's like the Fen chapter, right, the main chapter where it's about him and Fen and their meeting, a passing of the torch. You could come up with some metaphors, some analogies here, some allegory. I don't know. I guess I'm hyper analyzing everything. If anyone here knows what ink smells like, drop it in the chat when this video is over. But anyways, the smell of ink and paper filled the air. Okay, so, or maybe that's a sign for like any memory associated with smell is going to be a strong memory because you're going to have those smell senses to tie it back. So those are the important parts of the book. A little bit of a stretch, maybe. Anyways, he's in the bookstore to buy another copy of Thrill of the Chase. He has several, but he feels like it's supporting the community. He's a good guy. He's supporting it, so he's going to buy a new one. And then, boom, he sees the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, larger-than-life figure, Forrest Fenn, chatting with another patron. Describes him, older gentleman, easy air of confidence about him. So his first instinct was to leave quietly. I think that's pretty respectful. He didn't want to be an overeager fan, and I think a lot of people run to that too when they meet Justin out and about in the wild, right? You kind of want to be respectful, but he's been really accommodating and really open and approachable. So I would say, hey, shoot your shot, right? What does Justin say? He says, it's now or never. That's the voice in his head. A little voice in my head whispered, it's now or never. So he goes on and shakes his hand, describes, he's got a nice firm handshake there. Words tumbling out in a cascade. I don't know. I've heard some theories about that. Cascade, if that's the hint of the cascades. I don't know. But again, the point here is captured by the artist illustrator, which I'm sure Justin directed her to paint something like that. I know people who are fans of Masonic symbols and maps and pictures are like, you won't believe how many images I've seen of this like window pattern overlaid. Like it's a giant Y, there's triangles, you can make an Angzar if you tilt it sideways. It's almost like a circle, like the hands of a clock. I don't know. I just think that's because the illustrator did it. I'm kind of throwing it out there. But it's certainly interesting, right? It's why the backdrop of a window, right? Why not the backdrop? And I probably shouldn't be talking about this because I say, throw out the illustrations. I'm not a big fan of the illustrations, but if I was drawing if the scene was Forrest Fenn and Justin meeting in a bookstore, I'd have the background would be shelves and books, not a window, right? Did you say the word window? I thought I may have said something a window. I don't know if the word window is in here. I have to search in my ebook to see. So he says we move from the door. We move outside. Why is window in there? I don't know. Maybe that is something. But so if it is, you guys can work with that. Anyways, okay, so they meet. Justin says he's a little bit nervous. He's proud of himself that he kept his voice steady. I can relate. I was nervous when I met. When I didn't meet him physically, first person. When we met over the internet, right? When we did a Zoom call and we did our interview, I was nervous, hoping my voice didn't crack or anything. I don't think it did, but I can definitely relate. So then we get some. Justin. He's a gamer, right? I mean, he's he's in it for the hunt and the thrill of the chase. He's dropping words. Looking at Justin, looking at Fenn, seeing if he gets any realization. Right, here we go. That's the bottom of page 156, which I know a lot of people have said that page 156 is not in there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, all the other pages have the number in the bottom. So 157, 156, it's missing, but I'm pretty sure it's addressed in the errata. So anyways, he says, as I spoke, this is a direct quote, page 157 at the top. As I spoke, I watched his face carefully, hoping for some flicker of recognition, some tiny tell that might indicate I was on the right track. And Justin knows we're doing this, right? It's a game. It's part of the game. It's part of the fun. We're all keeping it in good spirits. Nobody's like waterboarding him or, hooking him up to lie detectors or polygraphs or anything like that. He sat down and met with, hundreds of people when he had that Dylan signing and engaged with them for several minutes at a time. So he knows that they're dropping words and that it's all part of the game, which I think is good. You know, it's good humor. Another thing that's interesting is Justin's photo right here, where he's like, what do they call it? Fence posting. You know, he's right here in some pretty deep snow, right? He's a really tall guy, in case you didn't know that. He's a tall guy, and looks like his foot's sunk in there up to the knee. You can see the hiking pole sunk in there. So, first tracks according to tradition on Yellowstone's opening morning. So he's up there in Yellowstone, stomping around, right? But remember, Justin said you won't have any luck in the snow. So you won't have any luck in the snow. But he shows snow in there, so you know people are playing around with that. But he gets talking. There's some fishing language here, which I'm kind of lost, so I had to do some research and figure out what they're talking about. Hoppers and grasshoppers and trouts and all that. So Justin moves from, which I think this is a high social IQ moment, high EQ, whatever you want to call it. He moves from, you know, Fenn gives the opening, right? Where are you looking at? Justin responds, looks for any recognition, doesn't see any, but quickly and as astutely, adeptly shifts over to talking about fishing, right? And sees the recognition and enjoyment in Fenn's eye. So let's go ahead and talk more about that and less of where I'm hunting, right? And so, again, I'm not going to cover this in detail. Even though some people say there's some secrets here, I don't know. It's not mine to speak on, so I'm going to move on from that. But the top of 158, this is what I find interesting. As we, this direct quote from the book, as we shook hands to part ways, a question burned in my mind. So this is the one question that Justin says he had as he was leaving. So think of all the questions that people would have wanted to ask Justin. Think of all the questions that Fenn searchers would have wanted to ask Fenn, right? And the one question that burned in Justin's mind was this one. Forrest, this is a direct quote. Forrest, I've said, I've got to ask, do you really think someone could find your treasure? So I think about this, right? He put it in text, right? He spent some time. The text went through several, went through an editor, some trimming of it. This is a pretty tight story here. And the question he left was, do you think it can be found? I think at its core, it's a question we all face when getting into a treasure hunt like this. Am I wasting my time? Am I foolish? I know we're all going to have friends and family that are like, you're wasting your time, you're foolish, right? But the question we all have to ask ourselves is this real? Is there real gold out there? And can we trust this creator? And I think that's what Justin is trying to convey with this question. And I think his response that Fenn said, is I think also a message to us, right? So, Fenn's eyes narrowed slightly, reading from the book, not in suspicion, but in the way of a wise sage about to impart a profound truth. This is in quotes, someone is going to find that treasure, he said, his voice steady and sure. Alliteration. And not by chance. You know the poem and you've read my book. You're just the kind of person that could find it. All right, so Justin goes on to say that became a mantra. He calls out his dad a little bit, but you can judge a person by his eyes. And Justin doesn't say, he says, I saw in Forrest's eyes a glimmer of the same excitement, right? And so I think it's important to trust, regardless of what you believe happened at the end of the Fenn hunt and during the Fenn hunt. I think if you're serious about finding Justin's gold that he's put out there for us, you need to take his interpretation of what happened and any interaction that he had with Fenn, the way he describes it, you need to take it into account and read it for what it's worth, right? So I believe that that's a message for us that, hey, the treasure's out there, read the book, read the poem, and you're just the type of person to find it, right? It's not going to be by chance, which I think talks a little bit about, I don't want to read too much into this, but talks a little bit about how he's hidden it and where he's hidden it. It's not going to be a chance stumbled upon, right? Which, in all honesty, is one of the things I worry about because my area that I'm going boots on the ground is not crazy far from some trails that it look like are, I wouldn't call them popular trails, but I've seen reviews on trails earlier this year. And so I just think in my head that, okay, not everyone who walks the trail leaves a review on it. So if I see a few reviews on a trail, I've got to multiply that number. So I don't know. It makes me a little nervous. That's one of the things I don't like. I wish this area was a little bit more remote, but that's where I'm going. That's where we're going. So we're going to ride it out. Let's see. What else we have in the... okay, we get back into the SUV. Maps spilling across the passenger seat, right? This hunt had become more than a hobby. It was a journey to discovery. Then he drops out some messages. Some locations where he's going to go next. Maybe Gallatin, maybe Grand Tetons. And this is, to me, I kind of think he does this intentionally throughout the book, or lists like several locations like that for anybody who's trying to brute force the book. And okay, let's just go every single place he's mentioned in the book. Let's go there and check it out. I think that would be one way to brute force it. I go back and forth my own self. Do I think he listed the place? The place I'm going, he has not listed in the book. So I don't know. On a day like today, I feel good that it's not listed. But anyways. Okay, so then let's see. The thrill is just beginning. That's how we end. He'd only reinforce his passion for the chase. All right, that's there's one other thing I want to call out. Toward the end, third from the last paragraph on page 158. We're here almost at the end of the story. Here's a direct quote. Encompassing not only the search for Finn's cache, that's spelled C-A-C-H-E, but also an exploration of the beautiful and varied landscape of the American West. That's not the main sentence I use to explain why the solve I have, bounce, is a multi-state solve. But I think that's one of the things that reinforces it, that this trip, this hunt, is a journey across the American West, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, right? I've learned so much about the West. I mean, I've done historical dives in almost every state that's here. I've learned a lot about all kinds of national parks. And even though the location, the treasure is only going to be in one spot, right? I don't believe the treasure is spread out. I don't believe there's multiple boxes, multiple caches of it. But I'm still learning about multiple places to get there. So I think that's fair game, to the criticism that, well, Froggy, if you believe it's a multi-state solve, do you think Justin wants you to go to all of those? Or if you only have to go to one spot, how can you say he's letting you explore the American West? Ideally, the best thing to do would be to explore the American West. If I could go boots on the ground and explore all these places I'm learning about in person. But, resource constraints, time constraints, I have a job, so I can't. So I'm doing the next best thing by learning about them, right? Which, in order to appreciate something, you really have to learn about it, right? I feel like that's a saying somebody said somewhere. If not, we'll say Froggy said it, all right? In order to appreciate something, you have to learn about it. Nah, someone famous said it. I know it. All right, that was a kind of my recap of that chapter. I only pull like one or two things from there in my solve. This is one of the stories that I rated high in, like, okay, this story has to have a clue in it. But the more I looked, I didn't really find anything fundamental to my solve. I just used kind of a few sentences in there to kind of reinforce my own bias for where I'm going. So in the end, I didn't really find anything, which maybe that's the point, right? Chapters that you think would be high end up don't have anything, and chapters that you think wouldn't have anything have something major. So I don't know. Coming to an end, a few announcements. One of a member that I've met personally in Vegas, that I talk to on a semi-regular basis in Discord, and that I have a lot of respect and appreciation for. She goes by Coolma. Her house was the victim of some flooding in Minneapolis, a couple weeks ago. And so she runs a small online business of wire wrapping beautiful gemstones and crystals and all kinds of really cool stuff. So I'm going to be putting a link, not in this video because she's still getting pictures together, but in one of my upcoming videos, I'll be putting a link for that, and I'll announce it. But I just wanted to plant that little seed in your mind. If you know somebody who likes what do they call, like crystals, gems, agates, all kinds of amazing rocks, this is something you want to pay attention to going forward. And I'll remind you guys, and I'll put that forward again. And then next, we're a week away. So next, not this coming Saturday, right? But next Saturday, the 30th, in Asheville, North Carolina, the Salt Face Mule, 7 o'clock East Coast time. There's going to be a physical meet and greet. So I'm going to be there in person. There's going to be some other creators that'll be there, right? Emma, Jem, we all love them. They're going to be there. Might have some surprise guests showing up. Jenny will be there from Mysterious Writings. And I'll be there making balloon animals, all right? I've been practicing my balloon frog. I think it's pretty good now. So I'll be making those. Be making frogs, snakes, rope, swords, sticks, all those balloon animals we'll be making. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support. Really appreciate everybody who's bought some swag, right? We've got the t-shirts, we've got the cups. If you're ever looking for them, they're in the description for every single one of my videos. You just look at the description, you'll find a link to the store. So really appreciate everyone who's bought it. Cheers. Hope it's I've heard good things about it. I haven't heard anything about mugs falling apart or shirts coming across and after like falling apart in one washing. So I mean, I've washed this tons of times. It's still all right. So all right, guys, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.